p.m. and I call this special committee to order. Um, before we adopt the agenda today, I'd like to recognize everyone who made himself present today. Uh, Obviously, to my left is the Vice Chair, Representative Edwin Probst. Uh, Down on the floor, we have Representative Blas Atto. We have Representative Marissa Flores. We have Representative Diego Camacho. We have Representative John Paul Sablan. We have Representative Vicente Camacho and Representative Angelo Camacho is present. I didn't get any message from Representative Odan. And today, with that also, I'd like to recognize our legal counsel, John Bradley, along with our senior legislative assistant, Miss Claire, and Cam, and of course, Delbert, our IT today. So, can I get a motion to adopt today's agenda? There has been a motion, has been second. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Motion to adopt today's agenda has been adopted by the members. Anyone in the public comment? In the gallery would like to make public comment. Being there's none, we move on to item 4. The chair has request for information to the Department of Finance, Zoning, Department of Commerce, the business license, and the Bank of Saipan. And I believe all comments or documents has been received by the committee. We will need some time to, scan and have the members view the items submitted by all the entities that were required to send information. With the exception of the Bank of Saipan, they did submit the information, but unfortunately, a lot of the items were redacted. So we've made an agreement with them to come down sometime this week or next week to review those documents. So there was a lot of information that was lacking, and due to the nature of confidentiality, they didn't want to be dragged into a lawsuit. So the vice chair and I have agreed to make some time to make our way down to the Bank of Saipan so that we can look at some of these items that were redacted and why was it redacted. I honestly don't believe that it should be redacted. It's public information. When they've applied for the grant, there is a spending plan that has to be identified, and we haven't seen any of those. I'm not sure if it's even included, and that's something that the vice chair and I are going to look at carefully because those items are not there. Other than that, I'll now open the floor before we move forward. Yeah. You want to discuss them now? No. Let me open up the floor for questions first. Rep. Camacho.
Specifically, what information were redacted from these documents?
I would share that with you. I just a lot of the package came back incomplete. A lot of the business plans were not included, and it is very important for the business plan to be there because when anyone applies for a grant, there has to be a spending plan as to exactly what each boosted recipients are supposed to spend or use the funds for. So that's something that we need to look at carefully. Very much. Is Rep. Camacho yield or Rep Sablan?
So yeah, just in line with the question of Rep Camacho. So when you said you guys made an agreement that with the vice for Banco Saipan to come over to let us see
So
those
for us to
documents,
go over.
or
So
for
they'll
us
make
to go over
yes,
to see all those documents that are unredacted, are
unredacted.
not redacted,
Yes,
so that we can
we can
review
view
them.
those documents.
Review them.
We're just not allowed to take photos or copies of it.
Okay.
As I think that was, I guess, to move things forward. We both agreed that we will come down. We just need to pick a date as to when to visit the Bank of Saipan.
Thank you. So clarify that you.
Thank you. Any further? Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I also wanted to add that we have discussed this before. There are letters being subpoenas being prepared. Subpoenas justus tecum that will go out, Chairman, if I'm correct, tomorrow to non-stop corporations, Robert Trevilla and Sinan Sap, as well as Shane Villanueva. So I believe our good Sergeant at Arms Pete Tawai will be responsible for delivering that. But that should go out by tomorrow, and as we've discussed before, and so that's the start of it. And for that information that we've been requesting, so that we can, and of course, once we receive it, I believe we're giving them 10 days to turn it in. We'll share it with the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Any further? Rep Flores.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think in light of the issuance of these subpoenas, just for the record, at any event that the Sergeant at Arms, who is going to be the custodian to pass these subpoenas out, I guess this is a legal question. If the actual individual can't be found, is it in line with the rules that we can also, or the Sergeant at Arms, provide the subpoena to the recorded registered agent within their annual report, or who's been identified as that? Counsel?
These are all subpoenas that are issued to seek documents that are being held within an agency. Now, if they're documents that are personally held, like your own text or your own emails, you would have to target that particular person. But if they're documents that would be held by the government, then there's usually a custodian, and anyone can collect those through their agency and provide them. But the typical way to do it is to subpoena the head of the agency, and then they delegate it to someone within the office to do it.
So assuming that the individual is a sole proprietor or a corporation that needs to be subpoenaed, and it's not the agency, and the individual supposedly or maybe off island for whatever other purpose, and they cannot find this individual on island, would it be appropriate for this body to serve the subpoena to the recorded agent as identified through Commerce or Revenue Tax?
Yeah, that could be a substitute. It could be anyone who has care, custody, and control of the documents that you seek. And it could be an officer if it was a corporation. It could be just anyone who has control over those things.
Okay, so the Sergeant at Arms could also serve their board of directors,
if that's who the subpoena directed them to do. But the subpoena has to name someone specific.
correct? So, okay, thank you. I yield.
Thank you, Rep Flores. Rep Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair and colleagues. Some of the things that have been brought up in our discussions as a committee, just wanted to point a few of them out. There are some businesses that were boosted that have recently closed, and we've seen them selling things and moving off island and other things. We are hoping to get that addressed with regard to what happens to that property, or if that was part of the business plan, if they did purchase these things, and they are selling it online or whatever. Um, does the boost get paid back? This is something that we as a committee have to clarify with the Secretary of Finance and find out, if they do close down, what's happening to all this equipment that is a concern to us. Once they leave island, we may never see them again. But if you do look at the actual agreement that they signed, they have to report for a period of up to 5 years on what was spent. That includes all invoices, receipts, and any purchases that they made along the way. Question is, they made a purchase. Say, for example, they bought something, and they turn around and sell it. Is that fair? Is that do they pay back the secretary, the Department of Finance? Do we see a return on that boost? This grant did have stipulations. It did have things that they had to sign off on in agreement to those terms, and so that's something, Chairman, that we need to discuss with the Secretary of Finance. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Any further? Rep Ato.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I guess just for the viewing public's understanding, what was the message from Bank of Saipan for the reason of the redacted information for each of these applicants or recipients of boost?
Aside from personal information, some of them are proprietary. So I'm not sure. When we do visit the bank, we'll see exactly why was it redacted. We have a copy for everyone to. As soon as we have the copies made and available to everyone, we can start that process. We don't know what was redacted, just parts of the business plan, I guess, and we will need actually to see it completely because there's a whole section that's not even included. We just said, for example, pages 3 to 7 is redacted. We don't know what's in there.
Okay, well, I bring this up because when the FBI went into Banco Saipan and took all these documents, were those documents redacted before they were given to the FBI? So, as an investigative body, through our rules here in the legislature, wouldn't that apply the same way? That the redacted information shouldn't be redacted for the same reasons that they didn't redact information that the FBI had picked up from the bank.
That's a really good question. Now, when the FBI went in and seized things, they did it through a search warrant, which is essentially a court order issued by a judge, which probably has the greatest amount of authority in seizing documents. At this point, we have issued a letter pursuant to a statute which tells agencies that they shall cooperate with the legislature. There are certain areas that might be confidential sufficient, such as personal information, that they redact. We don't know what that information is yet. But there are still tools, as you suggest, that the legislature has available, such as a subpoena, which is not a court order, but it is a very strong method of obtaining documents. And if that is insufficient, a court order could be sought. So I think these things will be examined and evaluated once we know what the documents are and what the reason for them being redacted is.
Thank you, Council. And just so that the viewing public have a better understanding of our position and maybe the steps that we may need to take to get this information from the Bank of Saipan. But in addition to that, that a lot of these information were also given to this body in the previous legislature. So why redact the information or the 23rd legislature when you've provided a lot of these information already to the 22nd legislature, which is the actual report that was the vehicle to make sure this committee is part of the 23rd legislature as well. So that's just thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Rep. Ato, Rep. Camacho.
We're not asking for their bank accounts. This is a program. So I don't see why they're being reluctant now to turn those over.
Right.
I mean, if it's social security number, you can wipe that out. But otherwise, it's a program
Yes.
administered by, a member of the executive office.
Well, we are just I guess the Bank of Saipan is very open to us. They're giving us the information. It just they didn't want to be in a situation where a recipient files a lawsuit against them. So they're just being careful. The information is readily available for us to go and look at. It's just taking copies of it was not allowed, and that's where the chair and I agreed when we met with the Bank of Saipan. They're very cooperative. So I don't think they'll be hiding any information. We will just have to go down and look at certain companies or boosted
The
companies.
agreement was just between the two of you. The
Yeah.
two of you go down to the bank. Why not the
No,
entire committee? So we can
we
move it
both
quickly?
agreed. Let me restate that we agreed that we would come down,
As a
and
committee.
that I'll be inviting everyone to look through it. Obviously, there's over 2,000 applicants, and I'm assuming there's it's going to be that much found there. So we're going to have to go down there and look at some of this information.
We'll write up a guideline what we're looking for, and then we'll get right into it
Right.
and be done with.
So and that's why I've blocked off every Wednesday throughout the month of November and December, so that we can be available to be going down and scheduling to look at those documents.
Thank you. Are you?
Rep, please.
Sorry, I just wanted and thank you. Excellent points regarding that those issues, and absolutely, this is a team effort. We need all hands on deck. Obviously, we don't have deep pockets. We don't have special investigators or whatever. We are the investigators. We and our staff that help us out, and of course our councils and our legislative assistants. But it is a lot of documents that we have to go through, and absolutely, we're not going to go in there just on whims and look through certain piles. We are going in there with a strategy, with which business plans are we looking at, why, what are we setting them up, and that's going to be further discussed by this body with the chairman to determine what exactly are we looking for. Well, let's just be basic, okay, and just call it out for what it is. When you have 2,200 applicants, right, applying for boost, and only less than 300 say get boosted, and you have 6 companies of your own, and 6 out of 6 get boosted, not just by a little bit, but by huge sums of money. It makes you concerned. We'd like to see how special that is. It must be incredible because the odds are generally against you. 6 out of 6 out of the when you're looking at the numbers there, so it is quite staggering. And speaking of patterns, I know when we've been looking through the documents, something that has been coming up a lot is how the applications maybe they apply for boost in August, but then they don't form their company until September or later. And that was pretty interesting to see how many companies, including nonprofits, did not even exist until Boost came. That, again, has been why many existing businesses that were probably rightfully deserving of Boost because they went through COVID, they were in existence, they were paying the taxes and barely surviving, never got an opportunity, even though some of them were the first to submit. Now, because there are no rubrics, they admitted to that, there's no rules, there's no guidelines, and they say we just did it because it was unique or whatever the case was. I think we are going to determine if it was just by chance or if there was a certain system that was being played. That will be, of course, through the investigation that we do fairly and accurately together as a team. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Rep members. Well, just to let everyone know, I did look at some of the items that the Bank of Saipan. There was a Rubik's in the initial stage. We did notice there was, and we don't know why it stopped. So that one there was at one point, and then they stopped it altogether, and that's very interesting. So that's something that we're gonna have to try to get that information from the former Secretary of Finance and whoever was in charge of giving it those out.
Chair, or for that matter, we can ask the management of Bank of Saipan why was there rules in the beginning and who stopped it? Maybe they probably know.
It's a bank. The Bank of Saipan has nothing to do with they were involved at first, but then they were only tasked to issue the checks to the recipients. Rep Camacho.
One of the other things I've been looking at and thinking about is some of these recipients are government employees. Now we need to determine how they fit into this program. What are the rules as far as government employment is concerned? Because all the administrators for this program are all government employees. I have an appointment with OPM tomorrow to speak to them about that. Check on those rules. Thank you.
Camacho, Rebato.
It's a quick question. I know, Mr. Chairman and colleagues, that we sent out or we agreed that, or we voted on subpoenas for a few individuals in our last meeting. Would it be something that the committee can consider that we also subpoena all the text communications and email communications between these individuals for this period and whatever number that they carried within this period of time?
That's something that we're gonna have to list down again and actually vote on it.
Sure.
We've only on October 24 we voted to subpoena individuals, and that's all we agreed.
Yes. And
As far as what's included, that's I think that one needs to be addressed. I'm not sure. Maybe the council can chime in with regards to do we have to include a language that says text,
yeah,
emails,
we're gonna definitely need to issue a subpoena for record of these communications within Texas, whether it's regular text or email or WhatsApp, because the phone companies will not allow any information to be provided to anybody without a subpoena. And I believe that's how we received some of the communications from the last investigating committee. So I think maybe if the members agree that we should at least get the communications within the period of time of the boost between these specific individuals as well and the bank of Mr. John Arroyo. And I think that's something that we should consider, and we should vote on that in the very near future in our next meeting or so.
Thank you, Rep. Ato or Rep Flores.
Thank you, Chair. And I think in line, just to follow up with Rep. Atal, the dates are crucial. We know that the correspondence and the reply can give us the substance of what we're looking for. But in terms of dates, the dates are very critical. So if we can agree on what those dates are, there were systems that were in place and weren't in place during this period. So as a body and coming in to do our investigation, we need dates of, systems that were in place, including Munis, right? They went live on October 1st, and then all of a sudden, in less than 2 months, they were not live. And all the paper that was supposed to be uploaded into the system is unaccounted for. But again, the system didn't say that because we were migrating from an old system to a new system, and the paper didn't flow through the system, then how were these things approved? What correspondences and what method were they using? So again, in light of Rep Attal's concern, I really think that the dates are important. We need to agree on those dates. We don't want to be looking at paper from the 2021 that is irrelevant to where we're going to go. The time is really small, and thanks to the 22nd legislature who did majority of the footwork, where now this is towards the seventh inning stretch, right, before we conclude this game or this investigation. So that's all my concern, Mr. Chair. The correspondence reply, timelines are important, and that can maybe give us a better idea, at least for myself, who else I would like to see, and what other government entities I'd like to see subpoenaed moving forward. Thank you. I yield.
Thank you, Rep Flores. Rep Camacho.
I guess this question probably would be best answered by the council. Is there a law, a rule, or something that we subpoena the companies instead?
Well, the subpoena can be issued to an entity or to a person, but someone is going to have to carry it out. If you're looking for the text, for example, you would go to the communications company, which is what we did before. But if you're looking for things from the corporation, then you go toward that.
No, what I actually meant was the company, let's say, what's a good company? Let's say my company. Can you come and put a hold on my company until all this is done?
No, a subpoena is a request for documents or a request for testimony. That's it.
Okay.
We're not the Attorney General. We're not a court. We're limited to investigation and collection of information.
So clarified. Thank you.
Thank you, Rep Camacho.
I have a question. So when I was looking at these documents and looking through the Bank of Saipan and certain vendors, I did not see any section there where it had to be notarized. There were, unless I'm wrong, but there were no notary publics that attested to the very existence of certain businesses, right, or certain documents. That's problematic because in terms of not accessing paper, usually the notary public has a record, right? And you can trace these things. But the fact that that wasn't even there is almost like, maybe we need to even ask the question, were any of these documents, do they have any documents that had stamped notary public attest?
I'm not sure. I haven't noticed anything we device.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For sure, it was not consistent. Remember, it was a huge folder, and we were just going through it briefly. But I did notice, I think, one or two. There might be more, but that's where the committee comes in, and we do our work, where we all divide different binders and everything, and go through it and scrutinize that type of information. But we are, like I said, certain of is something that was just. But we are. Remember that we're not the Attorney General. We are, and I want the public to recognize that, because that's something that we are here to, of course, investigate and make our and with our findings, make recommendations on what should be done with that. But based on, and I'm speaking from just myself, not on behalf of the chairman or any of you, based on what I have seen so far, I feel strongly that there are huge red flags that possibly fraud was committed and other things, and that's why we're here. We're trying to look through this and make recommendations and submit these to the proper authorities and who needs to go, and not to mention, guys, that we are trying to see if we can recover any funding, not just from Boost, because this is the first component this special committee is looking at, but we are going to be looking at additional companies that were under the that were under the federal assistance and disaster related funding. So we are only at the beginning phase of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Ropes,
And the only reason why I asked, thank you, Chair, is because we seem to, we can't help but not think that there may have been doctored documents, right? And that's the reason why it stands out to me, is because someone could have doctored a document, backdated that, but yet there's no systems in place of how this is done. But we do have systems and laws that allow this process to happen, right? You have these dates, you got to go here, get this. That didn't happen here. The fear that I have is that there may be doctored documents, backdated documents, change of name in documents, and that's the part that's very scary, because how do we address that? But again, like you said, we are here as an investigative body to conduct our due diligence to ensure that we are upholding you know the oath and the Constitution. So I guess that's where I was going with that, is that that's what I just don't. We know it might possibly happen, and how do we track those doctored documents? The only way that could have been done is if the system was in place, we had the notary sign it, but now that there's no notary, then what happens now, right? They can attest to it and take it to some place, and it was backdated. Anyway, I yield. Thank you.
thank you, Rep. First, Vice.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to add one, and because not everything was redacted. There were some that were put in there that obviously, if you read it, there was no proprietary information. I I don't think it was worth the paper. Some of the stuff that was written was worth the paper it was written on, particularly, and then to see this, perhaps this one nonprofit receiving $250,000 or whatever it was, an absurd amount, or somewhere around that figure, for turning in something that a 10-year-old could have put together. That's where we come in as this body, and that's why we're looking to the business plans, because if you're telling me that this business plan brought in $250,000 and convinced this committee that this is so spectacular, so needed for to benefit our people, only to find out when all of us read it that this is gobbledygook. Okay, this is why reading these business plans are important, to see through a lot of this that was obviously just did not make sense to us. Thank you.
Thank you. And just to add to Vice Chair, the business plan and the expenditure report or expenditure plan is very important, because at the end of the day, when they did receive the funds, these businesses agreed to use the funds for that specific reason. So there are some businesses that open and shut down right away. We need to find out what happened to those things they bought, and then forward it to the proper agency to try to recover the funds. They agreed to retain all records, and there is a section here that if we demand these things and nothing, we have to report it to the AG or whoever's tasked to try to recover. So that's very important, and that's why the business plan or the spending plan is we need to look at those documents, because in order for the cinema to recover, we need to look at that carefully, and then maybe do a more investigation and see what happened. I did notice on social media that a lot of these companies that were boosted are selling items. So we need to differentiate: is it their items, or is this part of the boost? And that's something that we need to uh, get answers from the Department of Finance and seek guidance, because a lot of this open and shut down quickly, and that's something that is very sad to see, but that's what's going on. So we are going to look into that, but for now, the the subpoenas will be going out, so we can do a closure on at least the first part of the investigation before we look further into the recipients. I think the committee has already almost finalized the. I think we just need clearance from council as to the subpoena dusa tecum, and and go from there. But we need to get some answers from those that were tasked to administer the boost program before we can uh, go beyond that and look for information with regards to recipients. Any any further? Rep Camacho.
So you just brought up that open and close. Now we're looking at probably the leasers. What kind of agreement do they have? Right? Leasing and leaser. So, I mean, most lease places a year contract or something like that. Now, how did that happen? Are they still paying for the lease?
That's a good question.
Okay, thank you. Ayu.
Any further? Vice, any? Being there's none, we'll move on to miscellaneous, and also announcements. So the chair has blocked off next Wednesday. I'm not sure how long the scanning of all the items that came in will be done by then. And then the whole month of December, every Wednesday. So I asked the members to keep those dates open, the Wednesdays of this month and next month, and also be available between today and Tuesday of next week to go down to the Bank of Saipan to look at the business plan of those applicants. Can't bring, yeah, we have to surrender it.
Chair, is this point of clarification? Is this beginning next week, Wednesday?
That's correct.
I believe we have a scheduled 9 a.m. meeting, and then I think it's the annual Manamku Thanksgiving. Yeah?
Okay. So I'm gonna recess to Wednesday of next week, 1 p.m. or 1:30, and that's for as long as everybody's schedule's free.
So I guess my thing is, when you make the arrangement, do we have to go in together as a committee, or can we go separately and sign in into this sign-in sheet and then conduct our 1-2 hours due diligence and then come back? Or how is this? Because given that, I don't know, maybe someone else has something else to do or whatever, can we just go in by ourselves, as opposed to the entire committee? And then maybe we can meet on Tuesday and say, okay, your job is this. This is your function. This is your function. Don't look for anything else but this. And then that way we're all kind of isolated with a certain task.
We're gonna have to work that out with the Bank of Saipan, because obviously they're conducting their regular business, and we don't want to go in there and be a distraction to their operating hours. But we'll have our council. Tyrone work that out with their council as to how to go about entering the bank, because they have their own policies too with regards to who enters. So that's something that we're gonna have to discuss with the councils. We haven't decided that yet. Other than that, the chair is just gonna recess to. Is there an objection? We recess to 2 p.m. on Wednesday, the 22nd. All right. Short recess.
Thankful for trust.
Thankful for leaders.
Thankful for each other.
Thankful for our families.
With the members, the chair will not recess to next week. We will adjourn and have a new agenda filed for next week. So just be on the lookout for the agenda, and we'll schedule that. As far as the other stuff, we'll have to discuss that with obviously the entity that we're entering. So with that, is there's no further under miscellaneous? Anyone? Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chairman and colleagues. I just want to let the public know that we are grateful for the cooperation and the help that we've been receiving with regard to Bank of Saipan. We've been working together. They have been very fair and very cooperative, and we do appreciate that. I also do want to say that there may be times where we call potential witnesses and those to provide some testimony or information to us, and we're calling them up. They're not they didn't receive a boost or whatever. They're just people that are in the know, and we need to retrieve certain information. There are certain people that we will be calling to testify to get answers from, but they are not. We're not investigating them. They're actually just providing us answers to our investigation. I wanted that clarified for the viewing public. Thank you again, Chairman, colleagues, for all your help and all the work you put in. Again, there's a lot of reading that's coming up that we have been doing, but there's a lot more that we just received, and we do have to divide that up and share the different binders and chapters that we received. So it'll be fun reading for all of us. Thank you.
Any further? With that, we will adjourn, and members, I'll issue out the new agenda later on this week for next week. With that, thank you, members.
Thankful for smiles. Thankful for friends. Thankful Thankful for hugs.
Thankful for trust.
Thankful for leaders.
Thankful for each other.
Thankful for our families.